Okay, sorry about that. Call the meeting to order. Scott, do you want to take
Yep.
your...
So, Mr. Chairman, we'd ask that you entertain a motion to allow Ms. Bryant, Ms. Daly, Ms. Pastucha, and Mr. Salzer to participate remotely.
Okay, can I have a motion for that? Brian?
Second.
Steve, second.
Oh, she'll come back.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have to take a roll call
Oh,
vote.
roll call for that.
So-
Okay, I'll let Scott.
Mr. Chairman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Oh, and Ms. Blair needs to be added to that list, so if the maker of the motion and the seconder would be okay with that.
Yes.
Mr. Elsasser,
Aye.
Ms. Duncan. Oh, you're on this committee. I'm sorry. Mr. Ricker.
Aye.
All right. Passes
Eden Block joined.
passes unanimously. So all of you that are participating remotely, you've been voted in to do so. Go ahead with the next item, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the next thing we have to have a motion for the suspension of rules, so people can join us remotely. Can I have a motion for that? Okay,
Second.
Brian, Steve, second. Okay.
Okay.
Scott?
Mr. Chairman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Blair, how do you vote? This is for suspension of the rules. Okay. Ms. Bryant?
Suspension of rules. Aye.
Okay. Ms. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Elsasser?
Aye.
Ms. Pastucha?
Aye.
Mr. Ricker?
Aye.
And Mr. Salzer?
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, next we have approval of minutes. Can I have a motion for, put that on the floor?
So moved.
Linda, so moved.
Okay, Linda's second, Steve's first. Any additions or corrections from anybody?
All right. Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, we'll call the roll. How do you vote, Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Elsasser?
Aye.
Ms. Pastucha?
Aye.
Mr. Ricker?
Aye.
And Mr. Salzer?
Aye.
Passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. On informational items, we have the PCAPS monthly report. Is Becky with us today?
Becky is in week number 2 of her furlough, so she is not with us today. Her report is in the packet. Either Shauna or myself would be happy to try and answer any questions the committee might have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the PCAPS monthly report?
No.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the ETSB report. Scott, you want to give that?
There's nothing specific in terms of minutes or anything in the packet, and that's because the ETSB is meeting today, so Mr. Tuttle is not present as he chairs that board. I'm sure their minutes will be in next month's committee packet. But if there are any questions, we'll take them back to the ETSB and try and get them answered for you.
Does anybody have any questions for Scott for the ETSB? Okay, moving on, we're going to do the EMA. Anybody have any questions for Scott on that? Because Jason's not here, also he's at the meeting. Any questions? Okay. Public Defender report, we've got Kristen Collins giving that today. Do you have anything to add, Kristen? Okay, anybody have any questions for Kristen today? Steve?
And I think Nate commented on here that because we've had a lot of court cases that have been delayed, there'll probably be a backlog. And I think I asked him last month the same question is, does he have the appropriate staff and coverage of public defenders on retainer to meet the demand as it ramps up?
I think I would repeat the same answer that he gave last month, that yes, he does have, we're adequately staffed at the moment and able to handle the increase in the backlog that's catching up.
Okay, thank you.
So for the benefit of the members on the phone, Ms. Collins said that, in answer to Mr. Ricker's question, that the public defender right now believes he's got adequate contractual staff on hand to manage the increased workload due to multiple continuances that have been granted while the courthouse was closed for business.
Any other questions for Kristen? Okay, moving on, we've got the SFY21 Access and Visitation Grant. Renee, would you like to speak on that for us?
Yep, just come to a microphone, please.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that on?
Helps if you know how to work it, right? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The informational item that we're presenting today from the courts is just a renewal grant that we received for the access from the Department of Healthcare and Family Services. It provides funding for the court mediator that assists the courts with mediating cases that are self-represented litigants that generally the courts would be required to appoint a mediator to handle that case, and this funding allows that the county to not have to expend those funds for those particular individuals that are going through the court systems and family-related matters. So we're pleased to offer this today, that we received additional funding for another 4 years. Our court mediator assists families in mediating and reaching an agreement in parenting plans. So it's a valuable resource to the county and to the courts. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Just clarification, number of years again?
It's-
Number of years?
It's an initial year with a 3-year renewal, so 4-year term. We've had this grant for several years. I think it's been at least 15 years in existence, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Renee. Do we have any other questions for Renee? Okay. Next, we have the resolution, the 10th Judicial Circuit Online Dispute Resolution Grant. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Thank you, Brian. Can I have a second?
Second.
Steve? Okay, Renee, would you like to speak on that for us?
Sure. Today, the courts have, before the committee, a notification of a grant that we received. The court has continued to look for resources to assist in ways to provide services for self-represented litigants, a cost-effective means through technology. And our research has shown that a new tool is available to the courts. It's an online dispute resolution program. And this particular agency announced a funding opportunity that they would support funding that type of programming. It's at a cost to provide those services to self-represented litigants or any litigant in a court case to use an online technology to resolve their disputes. And when we learned of this opportunity, we decided to apply, and we did receive an award. So we're presenting that today for your review and approval. It's through the American Arbitration Association International Center for Dispute Resolution Foundation. It's a private foundation that has granted us $25,000 for the year, beginning July 1st, 2020, going through June 30th of 2021. We don't know exactly how many cases we'll be able to process with this funding. It is new technology, and each participant is charged $25 to participate in the online process in this technology. So in evaluating, we're hoping to review with our judges and determine which case type is most serious in need of assistance with the caseload backlog. It tends to change from, week to week as we keep reviewing, but we've tested this technology in our family law courts, and it's assisted us greatly. So we'd like to consider moving it into either small claims, landlord-tenant evictions. Those platforms will allow that caseload backlog to shrink rather quickly if we can move these parties through the processes. And so we're looking forward to implementing that program, but although the funding starts July 1st, it'll still take time to implement our plan and everything. So I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Do we have any questions for Renee on this grant? Brian?
I just had a question regarding the conferences and the travel and the lodging. Could you explain the necessity of that or the protocol for that?
The conferences and for this particular grant, there may be,
On page 47. It's the table.
okay. I believe that we were trying to cover some costs to go visit other jurisdictions or have the judiciary go and learn more about this particular technology. So we added that line in there in case we needed to go visit other jurisdictions and learn their processes, because it is very new technology. There's a lot of unknowns across the country. We've been studying this through the COVID-19 pandemic. Just National Center for State Courts has held various webinars all across the country. I think there are certain jurisdictions that have perfected this process and in their implementation process, and we thought there would be an opportunity maybe for us to go and learn from them.
Any other questions for Renee? Okay, Scott, do you want to do the roll call vote?
Yep, happy to call the roll, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Elsesser?
Aye.
Ms. Pastucha?
Aye.
Mr. Ricker?
Aye.
And Mr. Salzer?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. Next resolution is the SFY 21 Family Violence Coordinating Council Grant. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Brian?
Second.
Steve, second. Okay, Renee, you want to take this one again?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 10th Judicial Circuit Family Violence Coordinating Council has been established under the Office of the Chief Judge for, I believe, at least 25, 30 years. The Coordinating Council provides response to family violence in our communities. She educates police departments, various other agencies on how to respond to family violence in the community. She orchestrates training and just provides services and funding for different organizations to do those trainings. So this program is funded through the state's fiscal year budget. It's a line item in the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. They provide grant funding to the courts to hire this individual to do those services for the 10th Judicial Circuit. So this grant is a renewal grant for the beginning July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. This is something, like I said, has been ongoing in the court's budget for many years, and it has changed over the years. From funding sources have changed, and now it's based upon the state's fiscal year budget, and therefore, when we when we first submitted our budget for 2020, we provided line items that outline based off of previous year's funding for this position, and now we'd like to realign those line items for fiscal year 20 based upon the grant award that we received this year. So that's the reason for the request to amend our budget now, and it will carry us through the end of this year and into 2021 with the correct line item figures.
Are there any more questions for Renee? Renee, that's for 38,800, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Scott, do you want to do
Happy to, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, how do you vote?
aye?
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Elsasser?
Aye.
Ms. Pastucha?
Aye.
Mr. Ricker?
Aye.
Mr. Salzer?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. We're to the review of the executive session minutes.
Do you want to
Counselor?
put it on the floor and then have
Yep.
me speak to it?
Is that how we do that, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to put that on the floor?
So moved.
Brian, or Steve, Brian, I'll give you a second. Okay,
Yes, this is the portion of the meeting about every 6 months where we review our executive session minutes. We received a report of those minutes, and as in the past, it's the recommendation of the state's attorney's office that all previously held minutes continue to be held, as the need for confidentiality still exists, and to destroy executive session audio recordings that are more than 2 years old, except for those that relate to pending litigation.
any questions from anyone? Okay, Scott, you want to do the roll call
Sure
vote?
thing, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Bryant?
Aye.
Ms. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Elsasser?
Aye.
Ms. Pastucha?
Aye.
Mr. Ricker?
Aye.
And Mr. Salzer?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. We're now to miscellaneous. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up on the miscellaneous? Anything on miscellaneous? Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Left. Okay,